If you live within the borders of Kenya, I trust that this video finds you safe and well above the raging waters. And I hope that those of us who pray are still praying. And it is important to know how to pray, because you cannot pray away a season. In this season, I am praying for preservation, and especially the preservation of members of this channel, subscribers and regular visitors, if for nothing else, as witnesses of the goodness of Almighty God. What an eventful political week it has been. Hey, indeed, I cannot remember any time in recent memory when we have had such an eventful, very busy, very game-changing and significant political week, filled with political events and developments that don't make sense to most who analyze Kenyan politics, and especially those who have been clinging on mainstream media political narratives. The United States of America envoy to Kenya, Meg Whitman, visited Raila Odinga at his current home. Now, even before we interrogate what that meeting was about, closed door meeting by the way, somebody please remind me the last time the envoy of a major Western power visited somebody in their home, even a president. Please remind me. You know, we used to have a man who will go down in history as the most loved US envoy to Kenya to date. His name was Smith Hempstone. Nyama Choma ambassador, people used to call him. That man used to visit the homes of opposition leaders all the time. It was normal. Now, following the usual political narratives going around our dear motherland, sijui Raila's AU job, and so on and so forth. And then add to that Raila's meeting with the president of the World Bank at the airport at JKIA shortly before he jetted out to Dubai. And then even throw in that Dubai meeting, shrouded in a lot of mystery. Then, how does Raila's explosive speech at Embakassi South constituency, after all that drama, how does that speech make sense? The speech that has caused Kenyans to say, Raila is back. The Raila Kenyans know, the Raila Kenyans have been yearning for. How does that make sense? Well, I'm sure many of us have come to this channel for answers. Answers that you can never find in official press statements that emerge from these meetings. And so we have to look elsewhere. Let us start at the UDA camp. What is the reaction, or what was the reaction of the UDA leading lights to the Meg Whitman visit to Raila's home, to the meeting with the World Bank top guys? How did UDA react? Panic. UDA are very, very jittery. I believe the better English word is terrified. UDA are terrified. Why? Just hold on to that thought for a minute. I will certainly come back to it. Now, After all this drama, former Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho visited Homa Bay County. He flew there with quite a number of leaders from the coast region. And according to most political analysts, it was about campaigns for 2027. In my opinion, that was the excuse, not the real reason. And let me illustrate it this way. We have floods raging in the country called Kenya. And so this Kenyan comes up and starts talking about how he's going to harvest his crop from his shamba. And yet currently, his crops are underwater, submerged, and most probably swept away. But the guy is talking about harvesting. Does that make sense? Seriously? Because currently, my biggest concern is if we'll have a country left by the time we get to 2027. If Almighty God allows us to get there. Will we have a country left? What will it look like? Because seriously, you cannot vie for the presidency of a country that does not exist. And so, we must discuss if we'll have a country left in 2027 before we start talking about any elections or politics in 2027. That is simple logic. But where I agree with most analysts about the Joho Homa Bay visit is that it caused major panic in the Ruto camp and in UDA, especially because it came after the other events we have already discussed. Panic, panic, more panic. That is what it has been for UDA. Why? I believe the answer to that question is best illustrated in the following way. You are newly married. You are very happy. And then your dear wife tells you she's going to visit her ex-boyfriend. And you're not invited. But she reassures you, don't worry. It is only you. Things are okay. Iyo maneno mimi na yeye iliisha. That is an ex. It's over. The feelings are over. Don't worry. It's just a short visit. Only 2 hours. And then your imagination starts working. And you start imagining the kinds of things that can happen. The possibilities of a 2-hour meeting between your wife and her ex-boyfriend at his house. What? And when you're still trying to recover from that shock, you hear that your mother-in-law has also visited the same ex-boyfriend of your dear wife. These people who have been seeing Raila Odinga are buddies of Ruto. They have done a lot for Ruto. They have done everything for Ruto. And apparently, they still have big dreams for Ruto. And the main obstacle that is blocking the road, hindering their progress towards their ambitions for William Samoei Ruto, is a man called Raila Odinga. And so let's use a little logic here. Assuming that the visits were to tell Raila Odinga to Liza Boli, relax. Please stay out of the way. Or else. Assuming that is what these meetings were all about, which is the common narrative, then how do you explain Raila Odinga arriving in Embakassi South to distribute food and other assistance to flood victims, and then his explosive speech, very abusive towards Ruto and his government, How do you explain that? Does it make sense to you? Of course not. By the way, in case you missed Raila Odinga's speech at Embakassi South constituency, where he dismantled the Ruto regime, I highly recommend that you make sure you catch it. Because Raila Odinga described Ruto as a driver who does not know where the steering wheel is. Has no idea where the clutch of that vehicle is, or even the gear. How do you drive a vehicle without those three essential tools? How? And then he painted a picture of the Ruto cabinet that is factual, but also hilarious. I mean, even if you don't know so much about Kenya, and somebody introduces you to a few of these characters and tells you this is a cabinet secretary. What? I mean, you'll just wonder, because we have too many known thieves and conmen in that cabinet. And these are the same people we're looking up to save the country amid all this crisis we're facing. The floods, cost of living. Do you think we have a chance? Yeah? Now, when you consider the fact that in recent months, Raila has toned down on his criticism of the Ruto regime, then you have to sit up and pay attention. I mean, Raila even used the word shenzi, which is an insult. And the discussion that took place on Twitter after that Raila speech is also very instructive. Aaron Cheriot posted that since Raila's constituency now is African presidents, he should not be insulting President Ruto, a man who is held in such high esteem by these same African presidents. Not if he wants to clinch that top job at the African Union. Bwana Cheriot mockingly posed the question, will Raila hold maandamanos in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the headquarters of the African Union? And I believe many Kenyans were totally tickled and were cheering at the response Bwana Cheriot received on Twitter from Raila's lawyer, Paul Mwangi, who simply told him if he was aware of the number of Kenyans who would celebrate if Raila loses his bid for the AU top job. Lawyer Mwangi also emphasized that to Raila, the AU job is not a make or break thing. No. The man is not going to lose any sleep if he fails to get the AU job. Yeah, that was the gist of what Paul Mwangi was saying. Now, if you're looking for reaction from UDA over some of these political developments, there you have it. Because Bwana Cheriot is very close to President Ruto. He sits at the high table. Ruto has been Cheriot's mentor and godfather from day one. Picked up the man from nowhere and got him into politics. I mean, in a family, if you want to know what the father is thinking, talk to his favorite son, and then you'll know everything. You'll even know how the old man is thinking. That is a fact of life. So, what is really going on here? Is Raila Odinga really back? Because the last time he was giving speeches like this one, you'll remember, was during the devastating maandamanos, yeah, that were clearly going to bring Ruto down. But then for some very strange reason, they suddenly stopped. Raila stopped them very suddenly. And that one is still a mystery. Officially, it is still a mystery. But most Kenyans have an idea. Yeah? The big man syndrome. The powerful Western powers syndrome. But now, with this recent speech in Embakassi South, is Raila back? Because that would bring a lot of joy to Kenyans. In my opinion, although it is still too early to tell, if we look at the signs, what is happening in the country, it would seem that Raila has no other option but to be back. Because Ruto and UDA and the Kenya Kwanza government have really mishandled the floods issue. In fact, they have messed up big time. The floods have exposed Ruto very badly. Yeah, as a presidency that has no idea what they're doing. And this would not have come at a worse time, when there are so many other problems, most of them created by this administration or made worse by this administration. These floods would not have come at a worse time. Cost of living, striking doctors, children being told to go back home after reporting to school, etc., etc. The list is too long. But I must mention fake fertilizer there. That one cannot be left out, because its impact. Fake fertilizer alone has really shaken this government. Indeed, for all intents and purposes, it should be clear that this regime is crumbling, and that should be rather obvious. In the history of Kenya, never have the Wananchi so unanimously been in agreement that a government has failed. That has never happened before with any other government. Visit any part of the country, go to any county, and you will get the same story. You will get the same feelings from Kenyans. This government has failed. That one is not debatable. And so these latest political developments, even for the worst pessimist who does not believe Raila will ever come back, even for those ones, you cannot afford to ignore what has happened this week. It suggests that more and more powerful people are seeing the obvious. What they were determined not to see, what they were determined not to believe, it has now become impossible for them to hold on to that old position. And maybe we have reached that stage where people are looking for new ideas, because they have already realized what is already there can hardly be sustained, cannot be sustained. It is just a matter of time. Kwa hivyo watu wanajipanga mapema. All the signals seem to be telling us that. However, don't pop the champagne yet. This is politics at a very high level. And at that high level, anything can happen. And therefore it is very possible to read all the signs correctly, but then what happens next contradicts what you have read correctly. That happens. Politics is politics. You know, the other thing that has really messed up for Ruto and the UDA government is this General Ogolla Manenos. Let me put it this way, delicately. It has destabilized a lot of things that need to be stable for some people to hold on to power despite the mess after mess after mess their government is involved in. And if you want to get a very clear picture of what I'm saying, I highly recommend my highly sensitive special report, Ogolla Mystery Solved. Now the super fascinating thing is that you can get not only this particular special report, but other highly sensitive special reports previously produced that when put together will completely enable you to understand precisely what I'm saying here. Things have been greatly destabilized. Now you can see details on your screens right now. For only Kenya shillings 4,999 or $37, you can get not only that highly sensitive special report, Ogolla Mystery Solved, but you'll also get the others, including one that takes you right inside the center of power to describe to you in great detail the character, because it all starts with the character of the people running things. Obviously stuff that can never appear on a public channel, but you can get all these nuggets from these special reports. And we are in the kipindi cha lala salama. This offer is coming to an end very soon, so please rush and take full advantage. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.